I'm the storyteller, and my stories must be told. I have many stories, tales for both the young and old. I have many voices to describe many places. Many names have I, and many faces. In Russia I am Ivan, in Sweden I am Jan. In Germany I'm Johann, in America I'm John. From my many travels I have gathered these tales to teach you good sense when all else fails. Sometimes there are tears, sometimes there is laughter, but always are happily ever after.
Long ago and far away, there were once some very wild and lonely plains. Here the wind howled, and little grew but grass. People did not live on these plains, but they had to travel across them to get to the towns on the other side. Now one day it happened that a Tartar was riding across the plains when he saw in the distance a figure on horseback. The man was riding in his direction, and at first the Tartar felt nervous. Perhaps he was a brigand. But as he came closer, the Tartar saw that he wasn't armed. He was just a fellow traveller. The Tartar was very pleased, for he had been feeling rather lonely. The two men greeted each other, and the Tartar saw that the other man was a Russian. "Good day," said the Russian. "Would you mind if I travel on with you?" "Please do," replied the Tartar, for he was very glad of some company. So the two men rode on together across the wild and lonely plains. The Russian was a small-time trader and was on his way to a town some 3 days' ride from there. The Tartar, too, was on his way to the same town to stay with a cousin and hopefully find some work. There he would stay for a few months before returning to his lonely village on the edge of the plains. Now, while the Russian was quite a charming, friendly fellow, the Tartar was much quieter and more reserved. He took himself rather seriously and didn't say much. The Russian enjoyed nothing better than a good laugh, so he soon began to while away the ride by telling the Tartar funny stories and jokes he knew. They rode on together all afternoon, and not one person did they see out on the plains. They were both very pleased to have some company on their journey, for the plains were so wild and eerie that they could drive a man mad if he spent too much time out there alone. They soon began to feel tired and hungry. They kept riding, for neither of them wanted to spend any more time out there than they had to. As night fell, they decided to stop and make camp. They saw a small wood in the distance, and so they made their way towards it. There was also some swamp grass there, which meant there would be water for the horses. They were both looking forward to some hot food and a good night's sleep. Dismounting from their horses, they led them over to the trees and tethered them there. "We can camp over there," said the Russian. "Let's gather some wood for the fire. So they gathered up some sticks and soon had a blazing fire over which they cooked some meat and beans. They both ate hungrily, for it had been a long and tiring day, and the hot food tasted good after the long hours out on the plains. By now, they were both feeling very tired. The Tartar finished his food and cleaned up his plate. Then he suddenly remembered that one of them would have to guard the horses, for brigands wandered the plains. So he said, "Friend, let us draw lots to see who shall guard the horses." "You can keep watch," said the Russian. "My horse is white, and I can see it in the dark, but yours is black and could easily disappear." The Tartar thought for a moment. "But my horse is fat and healthy, while yours is thin and old. But I'm so tired, I'd gladly exchange yours for mine." The Russian agreed, but said there was no need for him to guard the black horse, for a thief wouldn't see it in the dark, but he certainly would see the Tartar's white horse. The Russian was very pleased with himself at the good deal he had done, and settled down to sleep. But the poor Tartar was very confused. He had swapped his good black horse for the Russian's old white horse, and now the Russian told him that the thief would only steal his. The Russian had tricked him. He must have done. But he wasn't going to let him get away with it. He'd teach him a lesson all right. So when he heard the Russian's loud snores, the Tartar got up and crept over to where the Russian lay sleeping. "Ha!" thought the Tartar. "I'll show you you can't make a fool out of me. You thought no one would see your black horse. Well, soon they won't." And away went the Tartar to where the horses were tethered. Now, though the Russian had been snoring loudly, he had only been pretending to sleep, for he was sure that the Tartar would do something to pay him back. And when he saw the Tartar by the horses, he knew he was right. But he did nothing, except continue to snore loudly. The Tartar stealthily untied the black horse and led it away towards the tall grass that hid the swamp. "Now your black horse will just disappear," chuckled the Tartar as he walked into the swamp. Once there, he let the black horse go. The Russian slept peacefully, or so the Tartar thought. When the Tartar returned to the camp, he was very pleased with how clever he'd been to outwit the Russian. But of course the Russian knew exactly what the Tartar had done, so he waited while he settled down to sleep. The Tartar was so tired from his long day that no sooner had his head hit the ground than he was snoring loudly. When the Russian was sure that nothing short of a great thunderstorm would wake the Tartar, he hurried over to where the white horse was tethered. Silently, the Russian untied the horse and led him off towards the swamp. It didn't take the Russian long to find his black horse, for it had not wandered far. So he led it out of the swamp and back to the camp where he tied it up again. The Tartar was sound asleep and did not hear or see a thing. The Russian went back to sleep, and this time he didn't pretend, for he knew that the Tartar wouldn't wake now for a while. So, as the two men slept, the plains fell silent, but for the soft neighing of horses and the wind blowing through the tall grasses. Some time later, the Tartar awoke suddenly from his dreamless sleep. Too impatient to wait until the morning to have a laugh at the Russian's expense, he quickly hurried over and shook him. "Wake up!" he cried. "I've just had a terrible dream that the devil came and took your black horse into the swamp." "That's funny," yawned the Russian, "for I just dreamt that your horse broke its tether and ran away." Well, the Tartar was so surprised to hear this that he quickly turned round to see if his horse was still there. But it had gone, and instead there was only the black horse. He was sure he had led it out into the swamp. The Russian had a good chuckle as he watched the Tartar search fruitlessly among the swamp grass. "That'll teach him to steal my horse," he laughed. Dawn broke, and the two men prepared to leave the camp. The Russian rode along on the black horse, while the Tartar followed on foot. They travelled on until they came to a well where a man was resting. The Russian saw that it was a trader he knew from one of the nearby towns, so he decided to sell his horse to him, so he might journey on with the Tartar on foot. He struck a very good bargain with the trader, and both were pleased. While the Tartar watched, the trader paid the Russian his price. Then he took up his goods and led the horse away. "Listen," grinned the Russian, "it is silly for both of us to walk. Why don't we take it in turns to carry each other on our backs?" "For how long?" asked the Tartar suspiciously. The Russian suggested that the one who was being carried sang a song until he fell asleep. Then it was the next one's turn. To choose who should ride first, the Tartar had to guess in which hand the Russian had a coin. Well, the Tartar did guess correctly, and he happily took off his bag and hung it round the Russian's neck. Then he climbed onto the Russian's back, and off they went. As the Russian walked off across the great deserted plains, the Tartar began to hum a soft lullaby. "La-li-la, la-li-la," sang the Tartar softly as the Russian walked on. Well, the Tartar had not sung more than 2 verses of his song when he began to feel very sleepy indeed, which is hardly surprising since he was singing a lullaby. Soon he was yawning sleepily. When the Russian saw this, he was amused, and he thought to himself, "I won't have to carry this fellow much further." The Tartar did manage to mumble just one more verse before his head finally fell forward onto the Russian's shoulder. The Russian wasn't going to carry the Tartar one step further than he must, and he dumped him on the ground. The Tartar was in a deep, delicious sleep, and it was only the Russian's constant prodding that roused him. "Wake up!" cried the Russian. "It's my turn now." And so saying, the Russian dropped the Tartar's bag on the ground. Now the Tartar had no wish to carry the heavy Russian on his shoulder, but he had agreed. So, reluctantly, the Tartar picked up the bags and hung them round his neck. Perhaps, if he was lucky, the Russian would fall asleep quickly and he wouldn't have to carry him too far. The Russian was in fine form as he climbed up onto the Tartar's back. Oh, he was really going to have some fun now. There was nothing he liked better than being given a lift. First, he must think of a good song to sing. Instead of thinking of a lullaby like the Tartar, which he knew would send him to sleep in 2 seconds, The Russian thought of a gay, noisy song that would keep him awake all day, for he had no intention of carrying the Tartar again. The Russian sang his cheerful song. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, he sang, as the poor Tartar carried him across the plain. On and on went the Tartar. He stumbled and sweated under the Russian's heavy weight. The Russian was having a wonderful time now, laughing and singing, and did not seem to be getting at all sleepy. "How much longer does this song of yours go on for?" cried the Tartar, for he was quite exhausted. "Oh, only another 14 verses, laughed the Russian, and sang on with great gusto. So on and on walked the Tartar, not sure if from one minute to the next his legs were going to collapse beneath him. And still the Russian hummed away and showed not the slightest sign of sleepiness. As the Tartar staggered on step by step, he thought sadly to himself, "Oh, how did I ever get myself into this mess?" At last, they came to a wood. The poor Tartar did so want to rest, but the Russian just sang at the top of his voice. "Oh, please let me stop," cried the Tartar. "I'm so tired." "But I haven't finished my song yet," cried the Russian. "No, you'll just have to go on." So the Tartar stumbled on, but it was no good. The Tartar just couldn't carry the Russian another step, and at last his legs gave way, and the Tartar collapsed in a heap on the grass. "Fine horse you make," laughed the Russian as he poked him with a stick. The Russian could see that the Tartar had had enough, so he helped him up to his feet and tried to revive him with a few good slaps to his cheeks. And because the Tartar could walk no more, the Russian decided that although it was still light, that they should stop and make camp here. They searched around for firewood, for they wanted to cook their supper. When they came to light the fire, they discovered they only had one small chicken, and both of them were ravenously hungry. It wasn't enough. What should they do? If they divided up the chicken between them and ate it, it would only whet their appetites and make them hungrier. "This is no meal for two," said the Russian. "I know," said the Tartar. "Let's both take a nap." "And then what?" asked the Russian. "The one who has the best dream gets the chicken," said the Tartar. The Russian thought this a very good idea, and he smiled wickedly to himself as he slowly turned the juicy chicken on the spit. Yes, he knew exactly what to do, for he certainly wasn't going to be the one to go hungry tonight. So the two men settled down on their blankets to go to sleep. The Tartar shut his eyes, but did not go straight to sleep. First, he thought up a wonderful dream. "That will win me the chicken without a doubt," he said, and smiled as he drifted off. But the Russian did not go to sleep. He just waited until he heard the Tartar's loud snores. When he was certain that he was in a deep sleep, he reached over to where the chicken was roasting on the spit. He took the chicken off the fire and crept back with it. With great relish, the Russian then removed the chicken from the spit and began to eat it. Delicious, he thought happily to himself as he bit into the tender meat. While the Tartar snored, the Russian chewed away at the chicken. He stripped it of all its meat, and by the time he had finished, all that was left was a few bones. That's much better, thought the Russian. Now I can have a good sleep without my stomach rumbling. And he calmly lay back and fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. After a while, the Tartar awoke, and remembering the wonderful dream he had thought up, he was sure that the chicken would be his. So over he went to where the Russian lay sleeping. He did not even notice the chicken had gone. So keen was he to tell the Russian his dream. "Wake up," he cried. "I've just had the most wonderful dream. Angels came and took me up to heaven." "That's strange," said the Russian, yawning, "because I dreamt that too. And thinking you wouldn't be coming back to earth, I ate the chicken." The Tartar looked round in horror and saw what was left of the chicken. The Tartar just couldn't believe that the Russian had managed to get the better of him again. It was just too annoying. "Yes, I fooled you again," thought the Russian, and he chuckled to himself as he went back to sleep. The Tartar stormed off to his bags. He wasn't going to stay with the cunning Russian 1 minute longer. So he picked up his belongings and left the camp without even a goodbye. But the Russian was fast asleep and didn't even notice. Although the Tartar had joined the Russian to avoid the dangers of traveling alone, he decided he would rather risk that than be made a fool of ever again.